Okay, this is Block 7, The Greatest Generation, Part 6, The War in Europe, with the War in Europe, 1941. Let's take ourselves up to early 1941. We should remember this from earlier in the block. Germany and the conquered countries and its allies are in gray. If you remember 1939, Germany attacked and invaded Poland and conquered it. After the Sitzkrieg, Germany conquered Denmark, Norway, Belgium, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and France in the spring of 1940. Great Britain stood alone. Great Britain here in black, the British colonies down here in dark blue, the colonies of Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq. The light gray are countries that allied themselves with Hitler because they were kind of forced to. That includes Hungary, Bulgaria, and Romania. Over here we have the Soviet Union. So this is kind of where we stand. The only nation still fighting is Great Britain, fighting against this vast German and Italian combined force on the continent of Europe. Let's start on the east, because if we look at our map of World War II, it is going to break down pretty nicely between the stuff to the east of Germany and stuff to the west of Germany. Germany fighting the Western powers, which at the beginning was just Great Britain, but soon will include the United States. After Pearl Harbor, it did include the United States. And then Germany's fight on its eastern front against the Soviet Union, which we're going to be talking about shortly. Hitler had decided very early on to attack and destroy the Soviet Union. It was fundamentally part of what he believed, what he thought, what he felt. And he gave his generals orders to do so in the spring of 1941. But before they do that, they had to kind of clear off their flank. So in the spring of 1941, the Germans conquered first Yugoslavia, which is here. Let's make that a little fatter. We're on Yugoslavs. Okay, the Germans conquered Yugoslavia, and then the Germans conquered something like efficiency. Go away. Come here. After Yugoslavia, the Germans, the Italians actually conquered Albania. The Germans conquered Greece. The British were trying to give the Greeks help. And then the Germans conquered Crete thereafter. In June of 1941, their conquest of the European continent was pretty much complete. Only neutral Sweden, neutral Switzerland, neutral France, neutral Spain, Portugal, and neutral Ireland were left as free countries on the continent of Europe. On June 22nd, 1941, Germany, what is the same color? Oh my God. Hitler launches his surprise attack on Stalin's Soviet Union. It is the largest invasion in history up till this point. They invade the Soviet Union along this massive front. There are three main thrusts of this advance. There is a northern thrust, there is a central thrust, and there is a southern thrust. This area is huge. It's the size of the United States from Chicago to New York. It is difficult to get a sense of the vastness of it. Soviet troops are killed by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions. Hundreds of thousands of men are taken prisoner. It's a bloodbath. Hitler gives orders not to accept Soviet surrenders. Some do, some don't. Hitler gives orders not to extend any mercy. There are some goals here that Hitler has set. He is driving on the city of He is driving on the city of Leningrad, the city of Moscow, and the city of Stalingrad. Those are his goals. But Hitler starts too late, and Hitler underestimates the amount of reserves that Stalin has. No matter how many hundreds of thousands of Soviet troops that are killed, there seem to be always more and more and more appearing. And the front begins to slow down a little bit. The German troops can actually see the churches of Moscow, their spires on the horizon in the winter. And the German advance stops just outside of the city of Moscow. And a front is created right along that line. That was all conquered by the Germans in the summer and fall of 1941. And as the Soviets say, General October and General November caused the German advance to come to a halt, caused the German soldiers to suffer terribly in the winter. They had not brought their winter gear with them. Hitler promised them that the war would be over just as quickly as it was in France, but the front is too big, there are too many Russians, and Stalin obviously refuses to surrender. So by the end of the year 1941 in the East, this massive invasion has gone off. It has been incredibly successful, but it did not quite succeed in dealing a knockout blow to the Soviet Union like Hitler wanted. Over on the West, although Hitler had been unable to conquer Great Britain, he felt that Great Britain was a defeated power, that Great Britain could just kind of be left alone, and it could not threaten his control of the continent. There is no way at this point that Germany can invade England, but obviously there is no way that Britain can invade Germany either. So the British begin what is known as strategic bombing. Every night they load up their bombers. This is an example of a Lancaster bomber, an Avro Lancaster. It carries about 5 to 6 tons of bombs in its bomb bay, and it flies over German cities every night, attacking them. The stated goal is to knock out German industry and German factories, but the bombers are not accurate, and targeting is general. That the German civilian population begins to suffer under the hail of aerial bombs, just like the populations of Poland and the Netherlands and England and France already have. These bombers, they fly at night. If they fly during the day, they are able to be attacked by German fighter planes. One of the neat things you can see on them is all throughout the bomber. Here you can see on the back, these are machine guns that men are in to try to knock away fighter planes trying to attack the bombers. Going back to our map. Okay, let's go down south. The Italians from their colony in Libya, the Italians here from their colony in Libya attack the British colony of Egypt. The British beat the Italians back fairly easily, but then the Germans go and get involved. And the Germans land troops in North Africa, and they begin to push the British across Egypt to their lifeline to India. If we saw a map of the world, India is somewhere over here. The British need that, their great colony, the crown jewel of the British Empire. Stuff from India gets to Great Britain in large part through the Suez Canal. If the Suez Canal is cut, Britain's lifeline to India is cut, and that's a real serious problem for the British Empire. So the British must defend Egypt from this German attack led by this guy over here who we saw. This is Erwin Rommel, known as the Desert Fox. He was the great commander of the German forces in North Africa. He is threatening Britain's lifeline to India, the Suez Canal. On the front at sea, the British do find some success. The Germans had a battleship called the Bismarck that was threatening to sink all of those convoys that we talked about in the Atlantic Ocean, the British managed to hunt down and sink the Bismarck, which was an incredibly powerful battleship. It's a neat story. We don't have the time to tell it here today, obviously, but the British sank the battleship Bismarck. However, just by looking at the map, and we've talked about this many times, Britain's lifeline to the United States, Britain is sea power. Britain's lifeline to India is sea power. Britain's lifeline to Australia, sea power. Britain has to protect its sea lanes in order to feed itself, and the U-boats operating out here in the Atlantic Ocean in 1941 continue to take a terrible toll on Allied shipping, on British shipping, sinking hundreds of thousands of tons a month of not only food and supplies and ammunition, but ships also. And working as hard as they might, the British in their little island cannot replace the ships as fast as they are being sunk. 1941 draws to a close with the entry of the United States into the war after Pearl Harbor. And Churchill, who had been begging Roosevelt to join the war for months and months and months now, said that he woke up he was woken up, actually, that Sunday morning with the news of Pearl Harbor, that the American fleet had been attacked. And Churchill said that a sense of relief flooded over him. He knew that as soon as the United States had entered the war, no matter how long and hard the war might be, Churchill was confident, even though, if you look at the map, that the Axis was on the march, Germany was on the march, Churchill was confident at the end of 1941 that eventually the tide would be turned, and that he had hung on and held out and fought alone for an entire year, Churchill had, and he would be rewarded in the end with victory.